All righty. Welcome in, everybody. Marine Layer Podcast, Sunday Night Live. Trying to get Lyle in here for a second. Man, do we have something to talk about? Do we have things to talk about? Lyle, do we have things to talk about today? I feel like might have some options.
We do, but at the same time, I feel like we're also running out of things to talk about because there's news, but we also need the trade deadline to just happen.
We got a week and a half. It'll be here soon enough.
I know, but we're happy to take any questions anybody has because that's why we're on here and that's why we do this. But we have answered so many trade deadline questions about all these hypotheticals. I'm just itching to the point, like, I just want to know what they do. I just want to know at this point. I'm tired of waiting around.
Can we skip ahead to, what would it be, next Wednesday? Skip ahead to next Wednesday.
Well, no. It's the first, right? It's Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday. But we will know a lot more by then. There will be more moves around the league to talk about so we could clock what the Mariners could do.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if someone else trades for Brent Rooker or something like that. Welcome in, everybody. Marine Layer Podcast, Sunday Night Live, here live on Instagram and on YouTube every single Sunday night at 7 o'clock Pacific. We missed you guys last week when we were in Dallas, but I feel like we have plenty to talk about today, so appreciate you guys tuning in here on a Sunday evening. Make sure to follow all of our social media channels if you're not already, at Marine Layer Pod, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Find us on YouTube, Marine Layer Podcast on YouTube. We're live over there right now, too. And if you really want us to answer your question, head on over to the YouTube chat, send us a super chat, and we'll be sure to answer your questions. So, I feel like we should start off with Ty France. We will talk about Ty France on Wednesday's podcast. We'll have a segment dedicated to Ty France. But I think we should start off this live with talking about the move the Mariners made earlier this evening where they put Ty France on waivers for him to be claimed by another team, almost certainly signaling an end of his time in Seattle. Tyler Locklear will now get a majority of the at-bats at first base. This was inevitable at this point. Ty France, since the beginning of last year, had been about a league average player. He'd had his hot streaks. We had highlighted his hot streaks earlier this year when he was hot to start the season. He had, really good batted ball numbers early on. Came back, had a really strong May. Started off well in June before he got hurt. But ever since then, Ty has been heading in the wrong direction offensively. And ultimately, when your first baseman is batting ninth in the order and cannot be relied upon for consistent offensive production, something like this was eventually going to happen. And the Mariners made their first of what I imagine would be many urgent moves over the next week and a half. Urgent would be a word I would use to describe what the Mariners did today.
This roster is going to look different on August 1st. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think we've thought that for a while now. When the offense plays like this for as long as it has, this is what happens. And this is the first domino to fall. Ty France was let go. And I know that's hard. It's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for us. Like, we really like Ty France. He was a fan favorite for a reason. He was really good for a few years. But when you start to dive into the numbers, we know he already wasn't fielding, wasn't running the bases well. And then when you're asking him to do the one thing that he's basically there to do, which is hit, his WRC plus basically hasn't even broken 100 if you look at his stretch over the last 2 years, basically since he was in the All-Star game in LA. And for a premium offensive position like first base, just won't cut it. It's not enough. You can't have a first baseman that's hitting ninth in your lineup. Your first baseman has to be somebody that can mash, and it wasn't happening. Now, is Tyler Locklear going to mash, who's now going to be getting the everyday reps at first base? They're calling him up in place of Ty France. We'll see. I've certainly got high hopes. We know he's got power. We know he can be a really good bat. What'll it look like in the next 2 months? We don't know. He hasn't had that many at-bats. So I don't know if Tyler Locklear is going to come in and save the season in 2024. I'm excited about what he could do, but changes had to happen. And I think this is the first one to happen.
Now, I'm not 100% sold Tyler Locklear will come in and be a significant improvement, not this season over Ty France. Maybe next year, Tyler Locklear provides a little bit more of what Ty France was lacking, and I'm mostly thinking in the power department. Now, what Ty makes up for over Tyler Locklear is the strikeouts. Locklear will probably strike out a little bit more. His strikeouts have gone down in AAA since the Mariners sent him back down, but the Mariners just need something over first base. They know more likely than not They're not going to have Ty France on their roster next season because he's going to be due, I think, $8 million in arbitration next year. They don't want to pay that, not for the kind of production they're getting. They feel like a league minimum salary and the potential upside of Tyler Locklear, a former second-round pick, provides a little bit more juice for what the Mariners need, both in the final 2 months and next season as well. This should not stop the Mariners from going out and getting a first baseman if there is one available. I think it's still all systems go getting a first baseman. What's the worst that happens? You send Tyler Locklear back down. I think if you secure some sort of like 120 WRC plus bat to play first base coming up here at the trade deadline, now you have a spot open to do so because you've made this decision to move on from your current first baseman. So that's what the window opens up to right now.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to try and get a first baseman. I don't know if they're going to. The Mets, as of today, are buying at the deadline. So if you're hoping on Pete Alonso, I don't know if that's happening. The Diamondbacks seem to be buying, and they're playing well these days. So if you're hoping on Christian Walker, and I know the two of us are, I don't know if that's happening. I don't know who the first baseman's going to be. Maybe you go get Lamont Wade. Maybe. Will the Giants give him up? We'll see. I don't know if there's going to be a first baseman that the Mariners really want that's available at the trade deadline. So it may be Tyler Locklear. I think I'm a little higher on Locklear than you. I think he is pretty close to big league ready. I think the fact he was cutting down on his strikeouts in AAA helps. And I think he has a chance to come up here and do some damage. Now, do I think they should just forget about getting a first baseman instead? No. If Alonso or Christian Walker are available, go get them. It's a rental, and it's a big-time rental. But if it's going to be Locklear as a solution at first base, not just moving forward, but the final 2 months of this year, I actually feel good about it. I really liked what Locklear did in his time while he was up in a short time span back in June when he was here. But there just wasn't enough playing time for him once Ty France got back because they had Ryan Bliss. Locklear can only really first base and DH. Now that spot's open. So I think he's going to get some real run here unless they go get somebody like Alonso or Locklear.
Let's get into the questions. Let's start off here on YouTube because I think this question here plays right into what we're talking about. Anyways, before we get to that question, for those of you who have joined since I introed it, Marine Lair Podcast, Sunday Night Live. We're live here on Instagram and YouTube every single Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Marine Lair Pod. Find us on YouTube, Marine Lair Podcast. If you're watching on Instagram and are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, it would mean a lot to us. Head on over there to YouTube, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And if you really want to send us a question, guys, send us a super chat on the YouTube live stream. We'd really appreciate it. So let's start off this first one. This one comes from Ryan on YouTube. Do you two think Jerry being non-committal / hesitant about the trade market with Brock and Salk this week is him just being coy or the reality of things? I have my answer to this, but I'll let you go first.
It's the former. He's being coy, guys. We said this on Friday's podcast, and I'll say it again here on the live stream. If there was a trade in the works right now for Luis Robert, and it was getting close, for the record, I don't think there is, but if there were, do you think Jerry's going on Brock and Salk and saying, so we've got a trade in the works for a really, really impactful bat, and it's on the finish line of getting done. We just can't say what it is yet. Is he going to go and tell the public that? No, of course not. So he's going to give his answers that, he's like, I don't want to say it's GM speak, but he's going to give some type of answer that's not going to play their hand. He's going to, the Mariners can't do that. So I'm not saying that the Mariners do or do not have trades in the works. I'm just saying that basing everything off what Jerry's saying on the radio probably isn't worth it.
It could be both, though. Could be the reality. I think we're getting the sense that that this deadline might be as slim pickings as any of them. It could be. So, here's what we know. Let's start in division. I know we want K-Tuck, but the reality of the situation is that a divisional trade is very unlikely to happen. And unfortunately, those are two of the teams that are out of it, the A's and the Angels. But a deal with those two teams seems about as unlikely as can be, right? So then you go around the rest of the teams. It's the Blue Jays are out of it, but all the pieces you really want from the Blue Jays aren't actually available, which stinks. Want Vladdy, but doesn't sound like he's getting traded. And that leaves you with, the White Sox, whose lone really valuable piece to what you want is Luis Robert. And I think it's a near unanimous decision in the chats in between you and I that the package required for Luis Robert, you say no to. You wouldn't want to do that package. And then the Mariners are left-handed with their hands outstretched, and the Diamondbacks aren't selling, and the Mets aren't selling. The Diamondbacks are literally the perfect trade candidate. So if they don't sell it, it just screws the Mariners over because they have all the pieces you want, but are unwilling to part with any of them. And the Mariners are left with a roster with essentially just more rookies on it. After once August rolls around, if they really can't find a way to fill their roster with trades because, frankly, 25 teams believe that they're in the race for the wild card, and then you might just have to rely on more rookies.
So I'm going to bring up a team here because I see a lot of people in the chat talking about it, and it's a good point. How about the Rays? Are the Rays going to trade? Will they sell? Could it be the high level guys like Paredes, or will it be guys like Brandon Lau? Both levels of options apply to the Mariners. So if it's not going to be the Diamondbacks, do they turn their focus to the Rays, a team that they make a lot of trades with, to try to get something done? I know early on in the year, I was pretty not sold on Randy Arozarena. He started to heat up. He's really started to swing it the last few weeks here. So maybe that's more of an option now. Brandon Lau could be an option. Paredes would probably cost a lot. But if it's not going to be the Diamondbacks, maybe you focus on them. The Rays are right at about 500 right now. They're 5 games out of the last wild card spot. And unless they have a surging week and a half here, that feels like a team that will listen to offers. Okay, so people have talked about now over the last few days, especially since they've lost this division lead. Will they buy or sell? What are you selling? Like I don't think there's real pieces on this team that you're selling. I mean, you're not trading from your rotation, obviously.
No.
What in the world else are you selling? Like if I'm even trying to think of other pieces that could be valuable to other teams, Brash and Munoz, but like they're not trading those guys.
No. And I'm wondering if you're selling, when the Mariners bought and sold essentially last year, there was at least a vision that Canzone, Bliss, and Rojas, or mostly Canzone and Rojas, would have a major impact on this year's roster. And at least that's what the Mariners have tried to do. But if you're selling this year, what does that bring back? You're right. You don't have the packages. Even if you buy and sell, I don't really know how much of a needle that moves. I feel like the only option at this as of right now, there's no contracts for Jerry or that we know of that for Jerry, Justin Hollander, and Scott Service for next season. So you have to give yourself a chance, and selling doesn't give you that chance.
And like I said, buying can mean a lot of things. Like Mahal, who's I know a frequent listener, we met him back in spring training. What's up, Mahal? He asked, to what extent do you buy? And this is a valid question. You can soft buy like we've talked about, which means you go get Brandon Lau, you go get Michael Conforto, you go get Lane Thomas. Like you bring in a haul of guys who are not superstars, but it's almost like the quantity over quality aspect. And I'm not saying those guys aren't quality players, they are. But I mean in the sense of rather than one Luis Robert, getting 3 Michael Conforto type bats might actually do this team more. Because you need more bodies in that lineup that are above average bats than you have right now. So you could do something like that. It doesn't have to be shelling out your farm for Luis Robert. You could go get some rentals that are going to help this year, give your pitching staff a chance, and you don't have to sell your farm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see what we got.
Oh, you know what? While you're looking, let me give people a quick update because I have seen a couple asks about what's up with Julio. So from what it sounds like, he's fine. It sounds like he's day-to-day. X-rays were negative. That got reported after the game today. I think he's going to have an MRI tomorrow, but it sounds like he's day-to-day. Here's the thing, too. If he needs a couple days off from the field, like he could always DH for a couple days. Then you still get his bat in the lineup. He doesn't have to fully play center field and like the wear and tear on his body won't be nearly as bad if he's just DHing. So maybe they do that for a couple days with Julio while this thing heals up. But sounds like he's going to be all right.
Let's. I'm just reading. There's just a bonkers question on YouTube that I'm not going to read. I don't actually know if this is baseball related, but Benjamin Franklin, thank you for sending that in. Yeah, actually, Brent, he has Benjamin Franklin as well as his profile picture too, so maybe he did come out of the grave to.
Dude, this
to
sounds
send that
like
one.
this sounds like a broadcast voice question. To be honest with you, what he sent in.
My burning question is:
So here we go.
Would you rather
so
take
we're
the
gonna read
juice
it.
of 10 freshly diced habaneros to the eyeballs, or 50 punches to the kidneys by a jacked kangaroo to land Lululemon, aka Luis Robert Jr.?
All right, let's read that again. You either have to choose from eating 10 freshly diced habaneros, aka very hot peppers.
No. You take the juice from the habaneros and you put them in your eyes.
Okay, or 50 punches to the kidneys by a jacked kangaroo. You know what? 10 is less than 50. I'll do the habaneros.
You'd be blind.
You're talking about getting punched by a kangaroo in the lungs.
What do you value more, your kidneys or your eyeballs?
Do you want to breathe?
Do you want to see?
That's a good question.
I legitimately think you'll lose your vision.
But I don't know if you could talk if you got punched in the kidney 50 times by a kangaroo.
Well, I guess you just got to flip a coin. I would probably rather get punched by a kangaroo.
Again, this is like something the broadcast boys would ask, to be honest.
I will say you might die if you get hit that much by a kangaroo. That might break your spine. So that's a tough one. I don't know if I'd do either for Luis Robert. I'm gonna be honest.
I'd do it for Kyle Tucker.
Oh. Yeah. Since we probably won't be hiking, you might have to substitute.
Yeah, probably. Somebody really wants Ryan McMahon in the YouTube chats. That's from Jake. Would the Rockies sell him?
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten the idea that the Rockies aren't actually interested in selling, even though they suck.
And Ryan McMahon's been really good this year.
Well, if they sold, it would make sense. But most things I've heard is that the Rockies, it's an organization that doesn't really know what it's doing.
Right.
So the idea of selling, they're like, why would we sell? This guy sells tickets. Why would we sell him? It's like Artie Moreno last year, Shohei Ohtani. Why would we sell him and get a generational package back when we can just sell, I don't know, 30,000 more tickets in the second half?
Yeah, also
that's maybe how the Monforts think in Colorado.
Yeah, and Ryan McMahon strikes out a lot. Now, I'm not saying that it's not worth going and getting him because he's a really good player, but he does strike out a lot. So let's see. John asks about Paul Sewald on Instagram. Again, 2 weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to trade him or not. I really don't.
Be nice. Be really nice. He'd fit right in. They still do need that bullpen arm. We saw it against the Astros. I mean, just to have another option when Stanek clearly does not have it. And I don't even, I'm not saying this being all-knowing. I have no idea. But Ryan Stanek didn't look 100% healthy when he was out there on Saturday. So just to have the option of a Sewald, if a guy's not feeling all right, would be unbelievable. But as of right now, Sewald doesn't seem like an option. He would need the Diamondbacks would 100% say we got to keep him. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Henry got to be feeling the weight of the axe ready to fall. Yeah, that one is probably next. You would imagine. That's probably a.
Do we want to spend a minute on that? I mean, if you're just talking about performance, yeah, but I think we've talked about this on a podcast and maybe on some live streams too. I think what happens with Mitch Haniger in the next 10 days is going to give fans a pretty real life vision of how seriously ownership really cares about winning games or not. Because if they really care, they'll let him go and find somebody that's better that can replace him. But if ownership doesn't want to just eat the money, they may not let him go. They may just keep him at the end of the bench. And if that's the case, again, I I think fans are going to be able to find out a lot about the commitment of this team and this ownership group based on what happens with Mitch Haniger in the next 10 days. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yep. Because Howard Lincoln was always famous for talking about how he didn't want to pay anyone who wasn't currently on his own roster.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to make the Mariners worse if Mitch Haniger's on your roster. Like he brings no value as a bench player at this point of his career. Doesn't run, doesn't field, and hasn't hit. So what's the point? So you gotta make a tough decision at some point. There's a couple guesses on YouTube whether or not he's going to accept Tacoma. I don't think so. He has the power to deny an outright to Tacoma, which I think means he would be on the big league roster unless the Mariners straight up DFA'd him, which them placing on waivers is not DFAing him, I don't believe. It's not, right? I don't think it's a straight DFA because he has the power to keep himself on the roster. But if the Mariners do DFA him, I think if someone else picks him up, then they pay his salary. I think I have that right.
Yeah, and we should mention that with Ty France too. I guess technically his time in the Mariners org is not 100% over yet because if nobody claims him, then either he has to accept the assignment to Tacoma if the Mariners outright him, or he could reject the outright and basically just become a free agent and try to find a deal elsewhere. So, I mean, technically, Ty's time in the Mariners organization isn't totally done, but it feels like it mostly is. And with Mitch, yeah, it'd be basically the same thing. That like, actually, I don't know. No, maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it wouldn't be the same thing because Mitch is on a real free agent contract rather than Ty's not, right?
No, Ty's still in arbitration.
Yeah, right. So, yeah. Look, something's gonna happen with Mitch in the next 10 days. Either they keep him, they're gonna trade him, they're gonna let him go. We're going to find out. But again, I think it's going to say a lot about whatever happens with Mitch Haniger in the next 10 days. It's going to say a lot about where the team's at. A couple people are asking about Ian Happ. Again, it's another nice idea, but he's got a decent amount of club control. Like I'd be interested in this, but he's got a decent amount of club control after that contract he signed. And I don't know if the Cubs would just give him up or not.
Yeah. How many years does he have left?
Well, he just signed that extension, so he's signed through 26, I believe. So he's got 2.5 years.
It's not cheap, but in terms of realistic options, the Cubs are one of the few certain sellers.
Right. And I'll tell you, man, like Ian Happ would really, really fit what this team wants. You're talking about model of consistency as a bat throughout his career, can play second, can play third, can play the corners in the outfield. He's got like a 2.5 WAR, WRC plus is 120, and he's got club control. Like that is really a picture perfect fit in terms of what the Mariners could use. And he's not that expensive. It just depends on how you define expensive. Like his contract's 3 years, $61 million. $20 million for the production he's putting up isn't a year, I should say, isn't crazy. Like he's living up to the contract right now. It's just would the Mariners sell him or would the Cubs?
So here's an issue. Bryson on YouTube says Happ has a no trade clause.
Oh, well, then that would make that an issue.
And his wife is from Chicago.
Again, yeah, I don't really think the Cubs are going to trade him. The Cubs may sell guys. Maybe they sell Nico Horner. Maybe they sell somebody like Christopher Morel. Maybe they sell some bullpen arms, but like Happ just signed that deal. I don't think they're trading a guy with 2.5 years of control when he's been so good.
Yeah, I agree. Scott has a question on YouTube. Who would you trade for a big bat, Miller or Wu? I would trade neither. The only reason the Mariners are, thank you for the question, Scott. The only reason the Mariners are where they are right now is because of the pitching staff. So trading those guys makes not as much sense. Plus, again, would anyone be willing to pay like a fair market price for those two, which is insanely high? Would you actually get back what you wanted? If you If you offered them up in a trade as available trades, would you actually get back what they're worth? I would say no.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. Like, if for the Mariners to even consider that, they'd have to get an absolute haul, and I don't think it's happening anyway. And I'll say this, I think the only reason, like, I'm guessing where these conversations come from is because of the offseason discourse, when there was a chance that one of those guys could have gotten traded. But I will say this, that was back when the idea was, could you trade one of those guys for a real bat and then go sign Blake Snell or go find another arm to supplement? Well, that's not happening at the trade deadline. So, paired with the fact that I don't think the Mariners wanna move those guys, nor should they really. So,
Yeah.
if you're gonna go get a big bat, it's coming from your farm. It's not coming from your big league rotation, I don't think.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. We got a super chat. Thank you, Terrell. Terrell Rice on YouTube sending this in. Says it's pretty clear that lateral trades like the Seawald trade I think he's referencing from last year will be more common with this market. What lateral trade could land Christian Walker? What do the Diamondbacks need? Do they need pitching?
Their rotation when healthy is good on paper. I mean, you've got Gallen, you've got Merrill Kelly, you've got Erod, I mean, when Jordan Montgomery's at his best, we know he's good, but I mean, he's been awful this year. Thanks, Scott Boras. So
Yeah, Fott pitched well today too, right?
Oh, and Fott, there's the fifth guy. Yeah, like, so when, like, the Diamondbacks actually have a very good rotation when everybody's healthy, and if I mean, I guess if Montgomery was pitching at his best or what the Diamondbacks paid him to what they thought they were gonna be. I mean, I don't wanna get this totally wrong, so, I mean, we can look it up really quick, but, I mean, I think the Diamondbacks could use some bats too. I just, but because of that, I don't know if they'd trade Walker. Again, I love Christian Walker. It'd be awesome. I just
Trade Walker, and also the Mariners would have the. If you combined all starting 9 bats on the Mariners roster, is it worth the offensive production that Christian Walker has put up this year?
Right. Yeah, no. So here's what the Diamondbacks essentially need. They need a left side of the infield, but I don't know what the Mariners are giving them to get that. Like, you're not trading any of your blue chip prospects for 2 months of Christian Walker. No way.
No.
So yeah, I don't really know.
No. And it wouldn't be any of the lower level prospects either below that. The non blue chippers. The Diamondbacks would feel like they'd rather just contend, especially if they're gonna buy. Like Terrell says, a lateral trade that helps both sides. That's fine. And ultimately the Mariners could end up doing that to make things work. But if the Diamondbacks need bats, ultimately, Mariners don't have bats. They're not going to trade Josh Rojas back there. They're certainly not going to trade JP Crawford away. Even with his struggles, you hope he's one of the 3 best bats on your team. So just kind of shrug. You can try. You can throw a lot of stuff at the Diamondbacks and see if it sticks. But really, if they're 100% in to make the playoffs, then it's going to be hard to get Walker. It's going to be really difficult. You would have to really overpay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And again, I'd love to get Christian Walker, but I think it's going to be really hard unless the Diamondbacks start losing and are willing to take prospects. See what else we got.
K_Y_1507 says, we need another classic Jerry Fleece of the Padres. I'm in for that. Let's do it. I think AJ Preller's learned his lesson, though. Do you think he picks up the phone with Jerry for like a legit trade anymore?
Probably, because AJ Preller will do almost anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's got an itch.
It's kind of crazy that of that trade, like the one that's being referenced here is obviously the Austin Nola trade. There's only one left for the Mariners now with Ty gone. It's just Munoz.
Well, that guy was an all-star.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying the Mariners didn't fleece that trade. They did. I'm just saying, like, thinking about that trade now, it is kind of wild to think there's only one guy left from it because Terenza's gone, Tram's gone, Taylor Trammell, I should say, and now Ty's gone.
Yeah.
What could the Mariners fleece from the Padres?
Fernando Tatis Jr.
Oh, I'm down.
Sounds like a perfect fit. A right-handed hitting corner outfielder.
Sure. Could play shortstop in a pinch if you ever needed him to.
I'm down. Potential to move inside. Ultimate tools. Under contract into the 2030s. Sounds perfect.
Yeah, I'm down. Sign me up. Yeah, I don't think a trade with the Padres is going to happen. The Padres are also winning games, and I think they're serious about a playoff run this year.
Talkman and Wisdom from the Cubs on base and corner depth.
I mean, it's funny. I was looking at Mike Talkman earlier today because I was looking at the Cubs. No, they might sell. I was looking at who they might consider. The only thing about Talkman is like he's just not that versatile. I don't know if you really trust his bat or not. I don't know, like how much is he striking out? I was just looking at this today. Let me look.
Well, Wisdom has not had a good season.
No,
Not played that much. And
so Talkman does not strike out. So to this point, it's a good question. Like he's striking out less than 20% of the time, and he's had a decent season, like 104 about WRC plus. But again, you're talking about he does play outfield, not a great defender, isn't lighting the world on fire with his bat. He has a little bit of club control, but like 33 years old, it's not the worst idea. I'll say that. Like it is an upgrade in the outfield, but if that's going to be one of your like secondary, even like third tier moves, yeah, like I could be interested in that. Just another outfield bat that could help, but the Mariners do already have so many left-handed corner outfield bats. I don't know if Talkman fits into that plan or not. I have no idea.
yeah, Wisdom's your strikeout guy.
Yeah,
He strikes out a lot.
There's a fun Mariners trivia game. Patrick Wisdom was a one-time Mariner, 2020 COVID year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So were a lot of guys. So was Nestor Cortez.
Yeah, actually, Wisdom never technically played a game with the Mariners big league club during COVID. I think he was on the summer camp roster.
Okay, let's see here.
Oh, someone said
God, we
get
got a
Jesse
lot of
Winker and Abe
stuff
Toro
coming in
back.
here.
Tej, thoughts?
What's up?
Someone says D Ross on Instagram says get Winker and Abe Toro back. Thoughts?
No comment.
Sure.
Now, here's the ultimatum for the A's. Would they trade Abe Toro to the Mariners? Because that would tell you what they think of Abe Toro. If they were willing to trade Abe Toro to the Mariners, it would confirm everything I believe about Abe Toro. They would see the exact same thing. Because they're unwilling to trade good players to the Mariners, but they certainly would be willing to trade bad players to the Mariners. There? Fair?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Someone asked about Mike Yastrzemski in the comments. Another San Francisco Giant that if they sell, could that be an option? Yeah. And Yastrzemski's had a really good year, and that's another really consistent, the guy that's been a really consistent bat over the course of his career. I'd be interested in Mike Yastrzemski. Will the Giants sell him? I don't know.
Here we go, Lyle. I got a A plus trade. I think this could help multiple teams in Seattle. Ready to hear this?
Yeah.
Noah Firsty on Instagram says, let's get AJ Brown back to playing baseball.
So this is a friend of mine. I think you met him. No, I'm down. Now, how are we sales pitching AJ Brown to leave football and play baseball?
Well, you see the Mariners outfield and you realize can't get much worse. So why not?
Sign me up. Hey, I'll let AJ Brown roam around in the outfield. Why not?
You can't get franchise tagged in Major League Baseball. Just straight cash.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, here's a good question. It's a non-trade deadline question, so maybe it's a nice balance here. Gmo44 says on Instagram, "Hey guys, Beltre got into the Hall of Fame today. Ichiro's obviously next. He's got to be unanimous, right?" So you would think he would be, but one, you never know with baseball writers, and two, it's just hard to ever guarantee anybody's going to be unanimous because there's only been one unanimous vote ever. Ichiro is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no doubt. Will he be unanimous? I can't promise that, but you would have to think the voting he'll get will be above 95%.
Yeah. Pretty hard to. What percent does Felix get next year? Does he stay on the
Yeah, he'll
ballot?
stay on the ballot. But it's not, I don't know.
What's it? It's 5% to stay on the ballot.
Yeah, I was gonna say he'll get, I don't know, 20%.
That would be nice. I think 20 would be a very nice number to see. I don't know how high that number gets though. Like our mailbag, not our last mailbag we did a week from Friday's show. This question came up of making a case for Felix to get in the Hall of Fame. It's tough. He's got some numbers that would say he had a chance if he won another Cy Young. That would certainly help him. Funny enough, in case you guys didn't know that and you didn't listen to that episode, Felix has actually pitched about as many innings as Clayton Kershaw has. Now, Clayton Kershaw has more Cy Youngs and an MVP, and overall was a better pitcher than Felix in the same time frame. But just for reference, like this might be Kershaw's last year, and he is a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. And Felix, I feel like most people don't think he's going to be in.
Yeah, I think that's right. Now, Kershaw's done a lot of things better than Felix, which is why he's going to be a first ballot guy. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see in January what type of votes Felix can get. I would hope it's like the 20%. That's where Edgar started, to be fair. Edgar started pretty low, and he built it up over 10 years. Maybe there's a chance Felix could do that. But, yeah, we'll see next year. Ichiro's getting in, though. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Let's pick out a couple more here.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can do one or two more and then wrap it up. Let's see.
How about we do this question for Max on Instagram? I think our offense would be better. Well, it's not really a question, just a statement. Let's see what you think. I think our offense would be better if we bat Victor Robles leadoff. He's hitting well and is fast. I think he's about middle of the pack speed now. He was a burner as a prospect. I think he's aged out of his speed a little bit. However, yeah, I think Victor Robles, at least for now, should be hitting in the top 3 of your lineup. Let me repeat those words to all of you back in March, expecting how the Mariners roster turns out at the deadline. Victor Robles should be hitting top 3 in your order here in late July.
Unreal stuff. But where we're at, yeah, he's been good. I mean, he's hit second the last 2 games. I think that's about all you can ask for, right? Like, sure, he could hit leadoff, but him hitting second's perfectly fine. And if he keeps hitting like this, he'll stay there. Here's a new narrative we can start pushing. Extend Victor Robles. He's actually a free agent after this year. So Mariners might need to bring him back.
Give him a demo contract?
Sure. 3 years, $9 million or whatever, $8.5 million. I'll give him that.
All right. I could be in for that.
Yeah.
Future Seattle Ring of Honor Victor Robles. Yeah. Yeah. Here, I think this is a good one to
Okay. You want to do one more, you said?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right, we can do 2, actually. I'll do the last 2 ones we got on Instagram. First one's from Jimmy. It says, could we bring in Brent Rooker? We talked about this a little bit at the start. It's going to be hard. The Mariners offered the A's a really good trade package a couple of years ago for Matt Chapman, and they said no, just to take a worse trade package from the Braves so they wouldn't send him to the Mariners. So I'd love to get Brent Rooker. I think it's going to be tough, though. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And Brent Rooker has way more control than Matt Chapman did at that point. Way more. Right. So even the realistic package of what another team could trade for him would be enormous, and then add the division factor in there too. Like at this point for Brent Rooker, I don't know, is it crazy to say you would have to give up like an Emerson or a Celestin to even get the A's to pick up the phone?
I don't know if it would cost that, but it would cost a lot.
To get the A's to agree to talk with the Mariners about it, I would say yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I guess that's a fair point. If the A's are going to be unreasonable, then yeah. So
you got one more?
Oh, I guess 2 more now because we just got a super chat. So one on YouTube, that's from Bryson. He says Kopech and Pham from the White Sox, Oscar Brazaban from Miami, frees up Stanek and others. There's a bunch of questions in here. Do you think Canzone will be packaged and moved at this deadline? It's not impossible. I think it's unlikely Tom Canzone would get moved. And in terms of those trade packages, like the Pham and Kopech thing, Yeah, you could sign me up for that. If the White Sox aren't going to trade Luis Robert, then those are lesser tier guys that wouldn't cost as much and can still do something for you. And for those of you who are going to say like, "Oh, I'm not a huge Michael Kopech fan," because yeah, he's not been good this year. Mariners can do some things with some bullpen arms, and if you just have him at the back of the bullpen, maybe he could do something. But I think more of that trade's probably about getting Tommy Pham, a right-handed hitting outfield bat who can hit lefties and would give you a big upgrade. So yeah,
Yeah.
unlikely Canzone gets traded. The Tommy Pham idea I can buy in on.
Yeah, I would be totally in for that. And even, there's a couple comments saying Kopech sucks. Just like give the Mariners pitching development a chance with him. Like, give him a few outings. I think they might find something. Who do you trust more, the White Sox pitching development or the Mariners?
Yeah, for real. All right, last one. This one came from. Let me make sure we get it right. Oh, it's from Gmo on Instagram too. He says, "Favorite experience down at the All-Star game." And we can wrap this one. We talked about our All-Star experience a little bit on Friday's show, but just to do it here on the live stream. Honestly, I think more than any singular event, it's just all the people we got to meet up with because like that's what makes All-Star Week so cool. Is it's such a convention. The whole baseball world comes together for a few days at a time, all in one spot. And it gives us a chance to, one, meet a lot of people in person, two, see a lot of people that we don't often get to see, and connect with a lot of people. We did some content with those people. So I would say it was that.
Yeah, I would say it was that too. I think the ultimate capper, like really nice conversation at the end with Trevor May, like multiple hours. That was cool. Like that's a 10-year big leaguer right there that, you know, sitting there and chatting with us for the final couple hours of our trip. And that was really nice. And if you're not following us, again, guys, at Marine Layer Pod, Instagram, TikTok, we're on YouTube Shorts, on YouTube as well, Marine Layer Podcast, Twitter, posting all that content over the next couple of weeks with all the people we met up with at spring training at the All-Star game, All-Star week. It was fantastic. So you guys will have to stay tuned in for that. I would agree with that, Lyle. I think that was the ultimate capper on it. Like the events were cool, but the people, like most things, make the difference in stuff like that. So that was super cool.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And Trevor May, like, again, like you guys know, like he's been on our podcast, we've been on his podcast. Like he does a ton of stuff in baseball media now. It's cool between all that and him being in the area now. Like he lives in the Seattle area now that he's retired. Like he's he's become like a friend of ours at this point, which is really cool. And he's been willing to help us with some stuff. And he's a supporter of ours, which is really fun. So I'm sure you will be seeing more stuff in the future with the two of us and Trevor May, and vice versa. So yeah, all really good stuff, and we're happy we went.
William says Trevor May would be a perfect middle innings reliever right now.
Oh, he would.
Well, yeah, he would be, but he's done.
Yeah,
He's like, oh, I'm good.
right.
So
Honestly, Trevor's exact words to us before TJ wraps this up is he actually thinks he might enjoy. He said this to us. He might enjoy his time more being in the media doing baseball stuff even more than he did playing. So if that gives you any indication, like not that he didn't love playing, he did, of course, but that's how much he loves doing this baseball media stuff. So if it gives you any indication in that statement, I think he's ready to move on to the next chapter.
yeah, I agree. Well, thank you guys again. Marine Layer Podcast, Sunday Night Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're here every single Sunday on YouTube and Instagram, 7 o'clock Pacific. Answer all your guys' questions. We will have plenty more to talk about next week. Next week's live will be the last one before the trade deadline. So that's the last one we can actually talk about trade proposals on. So you guys better bring the heat. We'll be back here on YouTube and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts at Marine Layer Pod, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.